Hello and welcome to Rob from the Internet Talks About Beer, a show where we discuss different styles of beer, beer history, beer flavor profiles. We give shout outs to breweries we think make exceptional beer, and we talk about whatever else comes to mind during the course of our conversation. I'm Rob from the Internet. Let's talk about beer. But first, if you like what I'm doing, if you enjoy this content, please hit like and subscribe and maybe click the little bell to be notified when new episodes come out. All right, let's get into it. Today, my guest is Gary Hodder. Gary, if you would, tell me a little bit about yourself, what you do when you're not talking about craft beer, and how you got into craft beer.
Well, there is certainly part of my life which does not involve drinking beer, and that's principally working as a litigation lawyer here in Toronto. And I've been interested in craft beer for a very long time, and have had the rare opportunity to spend a lot of time with a beer expert, a fellow by the name of Gary Gilman, who
Gary's a good friend of mine.
Well, I'm aware, and he's taught me so much about the history of beer, and he has, told me a lot about what to look for in tasting beers and so on. And so that's what brings me onto your show. And thank you for the invite.
Excellent. My show is all about allowing people to express their love of beer. No experience is necessary. I mean, all you have to do is like beer if you want to be on my show.
Well, I do like it, and tonight I think we're going to be talking a bit about a particular product that I've liked for a long time, and it's this Mill Street Organic Stout, which, unlike so many of the others, has a certain dryness to it, yet maintains its ale-like quality, a top fermented quality, which comes together in that beer for me.
Yeah, it is a nice stout. It's nitrogen based, so it's not CO2 based. So it's got a much smoother and much creamier mouthfeel than your typical stout does. It is a nice stout. It was one of the first ones I actually had when I moved to Canada. My now wife and I had a date in the distillery district in Toronto. We went to Mill Street Brewery, and one of the first beers I tried was the organic stout that was nitro. So,
well, that's right. Well, you must be from the United States because you say Toronto the way an American says it.
That's correct. I actually enunciate Toronto because there are T's in there. Yes, I am from the United States. I'm from the Chicago area originally. I moved up to Canada about 5 years ago now. When my wife and I got married, she asked me if I'd be willing to move to Canada because she was not particularly fond of the political climate in the United States at the time when we got married, and I agreed. And it's been a good decision. I haven't regretted a single day of it.
Yeah, well, I moved to Canada from suburban Philadelphia in 1980, so I've been here long enough to purge some of my accent.
Right. So you say Toronto.
Yeah, I'm pretty well there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very much against losing the enunciation for Toronto, as I am very much against using the extraneous U in words. So like labor is LABOR, not LABOUR.
Yeah.
Excellent. So in your day-to-day life, you are a litigation lawyer. Is that correct?
That's right. I'm a little older now, so I've been for the last 10 years trying to reduce my practice, and I think I'm down to the point now where I can probably say I'm pretty well part-time.
Nice.
But I mean, I have a big trial coming up in February, a 4-week trial, which is going to certainly occupy my attention for some time. And I keep my oar in the water, but I am looking to do less law and drink more beer.
So what is your vein in law? Like, in a previous life, I was a computer forensic specialist, and I dealt with IP law worked with several law firms and several government agencies and cases. So what is your current vein of study for the law?
Yeah, well, my whole career has really been commercial litigation, broadly defined. That is to say, to include employment law and some overlap with between that and tort law. So it's, people say that, it sounds like a very general commercial litigation practice, and I think it is, but like all of these areas to me seem to overlap. And because I have experience in multiple areas, I tend to get cases where, the different elements are present in the one case.
Yeah.
And that makes life interesting.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Like, some of my favorite things that I ever, some of the favorite cases I ever worked on, I did a lot of IP based stuff. So, like industrial espionage and things like that were the types of cases that I was involved in when I was doing my forensic studies. So it's always interesting to hear about, what area of study people have when it comes to the law. Commercial law is one of those things that it's as I say, a necessary evil, because people are always trying to skirt the laws as much as they can. Aside from that, how is it that you got interested in craft beers, and how is it my buddy and your buddy Gary Gilman?
Well, I'll start with your last question. I was fortunate enough to share office space with Gary Gilman for many years, probably 10, 15 years, I think. And so it just rubbed off. We'd typically, me and Gary and other lawyers in the office would sit usually in my office at the end of the day, at least a couple of days a week, maybe even more sometimes, and would just try different things. We'd bring in different beers and learn. And, I can't really say when I first got a taste. I mean, I think it was before meeting Gary Gilman, I became familiar with the Sierra Nevada product, and had some sense of the enhanced use of American hops in beer, particularly in the early craft beer industry. And as time went on, I started to feel that it's way better to, maybe pay a little more for a beer and enjoy it and think about it and reflect on it, and which is almost as much fun as actually drinking it.
Yeah, I have an anecdotal story that I trot out now and again. I was at a barbecue with a group of friends of mine were hosting, and I showed up with 3 beers. And this other guy who was there showed up with like a 30-pack of Corona. And he's like, "Oh, you only brought 3 beers." And I turned to him and said, "Yeah, but my 3 beers have more alcohol than your entire 30-pack has. So I'm doing much better in terms of quality versus quantity than you are."
Sure enough.
So what is it about the Mill Street Organic Stout that piqued your interest and wanted you to talk about it on the camera?
Oh, well, as I say, it's there's a number of things come together in this particular beer, and as you say, it's a nitro beer. It's for me, at the end of the day, it's there's that moment when I'm thinking about my proper pint. I need a proper pint at the end of the day, and it's and I don't know what my brain does exactly in picking out or deciding what pint it's going to be, but I seem to come back to this one for reasons that are somewhat difficult to explain. As I say, it keeps a certain element of dryness, which I think can be a problem in some of the stouts and porters. I'm particularly during the pandemic, when I get beer delivered to the house and this sort of thing, it's really fresh, which I like. I'm also interested in it because it sort of represents an observation that I've made about craft beer, that Mill Street, of course, started out as an independent, small independent brewery, and whenever it was, I kind of remember now, probably 7-8 years ago, I think it was bought out by Labatt's.
Yes.
And as we've seen with other small indie breweries that get bought out, like Creemore and so on, that they've been able to maintain their quality, and which brings me to a point, which I think is an important one, that it's not the size of the brewery necessarily, or the how whether or not the owner is a multinational or just a guy around the corner, that what drives the boat is just the traditional quality of the beer, and the attention to detail, attention to cleanliness of the equipment, and all this kind of thing, rather than the size of the brewery that determines the result. So I won't lie to you. I was apprehensive when Mill Street got bought out, that maybe my beer wasn't going to be as good as it was, but no, it's fine. It's just fine. And so I'm very. Can I drink it now?
Oh, you feel free to crack that whenever you want, man. So it's funny. Mill Street. It's funny. Mill Street actually has a connection to my show. I've actually had the founder of Mill Street has moved on since selling out, and has formed Harmon's Craft Brewing, which does non-alcoholic beers. I've actually had them on the show as well. But yeah, the first time I ever went to Mill Street, it was hilarious. My now wife and I went there, and when we were leaving, we went to their little beer cabinet, and they had a barley wine, which is one of my favorite styles of beer. And it was hilarious. The guy behind the counter is like, well, that's not wine, right? I'm like, yes, I know it's not wine. It's beer. It's a very nice, high potent beer. But he's like, well, we have to ask, because we've had several people who buy it, several he said this, several white girls who've bought it who thought it was wine. They get it home, they open it, it's beer.
Yeah. No, that's right. Have you had the,
Mill Street's one of those breweries that, even though they got bought out, their consistency has been pretty much the same ever since they started. The first time I ever had it was actually, I was up here before they got bought out, and I had it, and then since I've moved up here and I've had it since they got bought out, the consistency and the flavor profiles haven't really changed. The beer is good. Look at this thing. It's got a fantastic head on it. It's got that nice nitro head on it. It's completely opaque. You can't see my fingers through. I always put my hand on this side because I'm looking at it. I got to put my hand on this side. You can't see through it, which is the proper thing for a stout.
Yeah.
It's got that nice malty aroma to it. It's that slightly roasty, slightly chocolatey aroma to it, and it's absolutely fantastic. And you're right, it is kind of dry. It's along the lines of like an Irish stout when it comes to the dryness that it has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to the king.
Cheers. So when I taste this, first and foremost, I get chocolate, and then I get just a tiny bit of coffee, that roasty coffeeness on the back end. But it's got that nice dry finish on it, and it's gone. It's not like, it doesn't linger in my mouth and things like that, and everyone knows stouts are my favorites. Stouts, porters, and barley wines are my top three beers. When it comes to types of beers I like, because I love the malt forward kind of profile.
Right. Yeah. Oh, me too. Listen, have you had the? I'm a big fan of barley wine as well, and the best I've had so far is a brewery in Maine called Shipyard. And
I've not seen anything from Shipyard.
Yeah, well, they had a Shipyard is they have a lot of good products, but one product they have is I think their barley wine is just outstanding. I just thought I'd ask you if you tried that one. I mean, there are some local ones here in Toronto which aren't bad. Have you had any local barley wines here that you like other than Mill Street?
I've had barley wine from Mill Street, and I've had barley wine from Sawdust City up in Gravenhurst, but beyond that, not really.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, it's a wonderful approach to beer. Now, I mean, the barley wine, of course, tends to be fairly high alcohol. So
yes, which is why I like it.
Well, for me, it just means I won't have a second one. You know.
You're just not as much of an alcoholic as I am, apparently.
Well, true, but then you see, then supper comes on, and I'm wine with supper. So.
Oh, I got you. Yep. Now, see, I'm a beer with my dinner. I'm a beer with lunch. I'm a beer most times. If I'm not drinking beer, then I'm sitting on the couch having like an Irish whiskey or a Scotch. But 9 times out of 10, it's beer in my hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, this is really love it. I mean, low carbonation is very important, and they've got that. I mean, it's very low carbonation without being in any way flat. You know what I mean? It's just that.
Well, yeah, and that comes from the nitrogen. Nitrogen gives that profile where it feels like it's less carbonated because it's nitrogen. So the profile is a lot more creamy. It's not as dry. It's not as bubbly as you get with CO2, but it is still, I mean, it's still well carbonated. It's not like, it's well above what you would have for like cask ales and things like that.
Yeah. Well, I, with the pandemic, I haven't really had much cask ale because I haven't been going out anywhere. And
right. Yeah. Same.
It's something I really miss. And something I really enjoy when I visit the UK, I mean, because there's such wide availability of cask ale. I mean, in Toronto, I mean, you go in somewhere, and if they have a cask ale, then you're lucky. Whereas in Britain, I mean, there's like this row of hand pumps, and it's, what do you want? And,
I love Beer Engine. Beer Engine beers are fantastic. They hand pump it. It comes up through the sparkler. You get just a little bit of carbonation in it, not a whole lot. The only problem with it is because the carbonation is so low, you can slam a lot more of them before you realize you've had a lot of beer.
Truly. Yeah. No, that is the case. They're very, what's the expression? Quaffable. Yeah.
Very, very quaffable. Exactly. Yeah. My wife and I, before the pandemic, we did a tour. We hit Scotland, England, and Ireland. I went over to Scotland to run a marathon in Edinburgh, and then we figured since we were there, we would just hang out and hit Ireland and England as well. And the amount of cask ales, Beer Engine style pours was absolutely amazing. It was like being being in heaven for a beer lover, because you go into this tiny little like hole in the wall, no place, little nondescript building, and they've got like 6 taps that are all Beer Engine. They're like shh, shh, shh. You're like, oh man, this is not going to end well.
No, I hear you. I can tell you my own Edinburgh story. I was there some years ago, and Gary Gilman had suggested to me that while I was there, I should inquire about some cask ales being made in Scotland, which were using both English and American hops. And that was sort of a new direction for some of the brewers in Scotland. And I wandered into a promising looking pub in Edinburgh, and with obviously a big variety of hand pumps. And so I mentioned this to the bartender, and he got all excited. He was like, "Oh yeah," he said, that is absolutely something we're doing. And he says, you stay right there. And he disappears. He goes downstairs somewhere, I don't know, and he comes back with all these little different samples, and he wanted me to try this one and that one and here. And he wanted, I said, now, do you like this one? Because, he wanted to get me. I don't know why he thought my opinion wouldn't matter, but anyway, he really wanted to know, and it was a great experience.
Yeah, Edinburgh is a great town. I was shocked at how pedestrian friendly Edinburgh is as a town. Mm-hmm. We stayed down in the city center, and you can walk anywhere down there, and there's you can't throw a stone without hitting a pub, so which was great for me. We were like, oh well, let's go check out this castle. Hey, look, there's a pub on the way. Oh, hey, let's go check out this park. Hey, look, there's a pub on the way.
Right. Oh, exactly. And what I like too is the part of Edinburgh is called Newtown, and I said to somebody there, it was a Scot, I said, so it's Newtown. Is it a newer part? He says, oh yeah, it's quite new. He says it's 18th century.
I mean, whatever. So going back to the Mill Street, I'm halfway through my pint here. It's got fantastic lacing. It just clings onto that glass like nobody's business. What is it you get when you drink this? What's the flavor profile that you're pulling out of it?
I wish I were better with words. It's part of what I experience is sort of the location of the taste in my mouth. I mean,
okay,
it's something that I get at the sort of the back of my palate and at the back of my tongue is. It's at that point where, some stouts that I don't like as much, are seem to me to be a little I don't know, sour, or they have too strong a finish. Whereas I think you said it yourself that this one tends to, disappear at the end of it.
Yep.
The presence in your mouth diminishes very quickly, and I like that quality. And again, it's it's a question of taste. I think it's unbelievably difficult to, for me anyway, to express taste in words, which is why I like listening to beer experts who can both have a sense of the taste but are able to communicate it. And,
right. Yeah. No. And I understand that. I mean, I am a admittedly low level certified beer nerd. I've got my level 1 Prud'homme certification, which is more like geared towards the social aspect, being able to explain beers to people. When I taste this, when I bring it up to my face, I get that coffee and that chocolate aroma, and then when I taste it, I get chocolate up front, and then it gets like a roastiness on the finish. So it's kind of like I'm believe it or not, I am not a coffee person, even though I love stouts. I get that coffee flavor, and then it immediately disappears because it's got that nice dry bit to it. So it's gone, and you're like, oh, I think I just had something that was like kind of coffee-ish. I better drink more.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, I love both coffee and chocolate, so I guess that's part of what draws me to the
that would explain why this is one of your favorite beers.
Yeah. But overall, I think it's the the roasted barley flavor is really what does it for me. I'm very interested in hearing about that process and the evolution of it, and how Guinness got started and all that kind of thing is very interesting to me. And that that porter, which is obviously very closely allied with stout, was actually named for porters, people who carried around bags and who.
Yeah. So I have had several shows on porters and stouts. And, I've pointed out many times that a stout originally was just a subset of porters. It was a stout porter because stout was a term that was used for any strong beer. You could have literally had a stout ale back in the day because it meant anything above 6% alcohol. And then it slowly evolved and became its own thing. So stouts and porters, they share that common heritage. And, that's a bone of contention in the craft beer world, that stouts and porters are the same thing. I'm fully in the camp that stouts and porters are the same beer. It's just different levels of alcohol and flavor.
Oh, I agree with you completely on that statement. And there's maybe a small divergence in what tends to get labeled as porter and what tends to get labeled as stout, but the overall principles are identical. There's no difference I think at a deep level.
Yeah, no, I'm in that same camp. It's like porters and stouts are the same beer. It's just different flavor profile slightly and different alcohol levels.
Now, have you had the Courage Stout from England? As I understand it, there was a revival in the making of stout. It took place, I don't know, some 25 years ago in England. This I wish I knew the story better. This company they've been making, historically had been, a major player in making stout, and then sort of reemerged, or maybe used an old recipe and put this out, and they ended up selling in recent years in very small bottles, like 8-ounce bottles of a very strong, traditionally made stout. And I'm not aware that it was ever available for sale in Ontario, but I was able to get a whole bunch down in Florida. And at Gary Gilman's suggestion, I saved some of them. I didn't drink them all right away. I saved some of them to see how they would change over time. And that was a very, very interesting experiment. Beautifully balanced, fairly strong, but beautifully balanced. I thought a very compelling taste. But then, over a period of years, and I'm saying, when I say years, like 5, 6, 7 years, I'd pull one out and would try it. And it was changing. It was changing. Like it developed a kind of a wine type quality to it over time, which was a very interesting beer experiment for me.
Yeah, I've done that several times with other beers, and I find it very hard to wait more than 2 years when I'm cellaring beers. Like I've got some that are 6 and 7 years old, but it's so hard. It's like I go into the cellar area and I'm like, oh, I could drink this stout today. I bet it's fantastic. But I'm like, no, I want to wait. I want to wait.
No, see, you got it all wrong. You have to hide them from yourself.
Well, that's the problem. Is I don't have a hidden area. My cellar is a portion of my basement, so it's like, okay, I put them there, and I walk through there to do something else. Like, oh, I'm going to work on the furnace, and I walk past these beers, and like, oh, that's that beer that I put back here 4 years ago. I should give that a try. No, wait. I wanted to wait at least 5 years for that beer.
You have to hide it. The principle is the idea is you want to throw yourself a surprise party.
Yep. No, one of my favorites is Nickelbrook had a series of beers. Unfortunately, they ended it this last year. The Whiny Bastard. So it was their Imperial Russian Stout aged in Pinot Noir bottles.
Oh, yes.
And 2021 was the last year for it. But I had 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, and 21 bottles and did like a vertical flight. And it was absolutely fantastic to do that. But, now it's gone. So I can't do it anymore. But I love doing stuff like that. It's just like you walk by and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot I had that beer. Maybe I should drink that.
Well, that must have been great, though. I mean,
it was. I did it last year at right about this time, about Thanksgiving. I did a vertical flight, 2016 to 2021, of the Whiny Bastard, and it was great. It's one of my favorites of their barrel aged series. Because I'm not a huge coffee fan, so like. They have like the Cafe del Bastardo and things like that like most of my friends love, but I really loved this wine barrel aged beer. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it didn't sell as good as the other ones, so they discontinued it.
Well, it's a great brewery. Nickelbrook is.
No, I'm friends with John, the owner, and with Rob, the bottle shop manager. So I'm down there frequently, and I was down there last week, and I picked up a case of their Oktoberfest beer, and I picked up a keg of their Equilibrium ESB, which unfortunately they don't can anymore. They can only get it when it's in kegs. But I mean, it doesn't bother me because I have taps in my garage, so I just buy a keg. But yeah, Nickelbrook's one of my favorites. Nickelbrook Grain and Grit is another one of my favorites. They're in Hamilton, and then Flux in Scotland, Ontario. If you ever get the opportunity, get out there and give them a chance. They've got fantastic beers. Their head brewer is amazing. She does a great job with all the beers, and the owner Jeremy is great. He helps design all the beers, and their staff is amazing.
Have you ever had any of the Jamaican stouts?
Yes, I have. Was it Dragon? Is that
Dragon?
That's one of my favorites. I love that one. It comes in those little stubby bottles.
Yeah.
You have to drink like 3 of them.
No, that's right. It was the Dragon. There's also Guinness makes.
They have their Jamaican and their West Indies stout. So when I was at Guinness in 2019. We did the VIP tour, and they take you into their little hidden bar in the back, and they give you the beers that are only in certain areas. Yeah, and we had the Jamaican and the West Indies stouts, and they were fantastic.
Yeah. No, they're amazing, and they're there's a quality. I don't know if this is deliberate or accidental, or maybe I'm just dreaming it. But what I found is when I was in Jamaica. And I'd go golfing, and of course it's really hot, and so when you come in from the golf course, like you're really thirsty, and when you're really thirsty, I usually don't think of a stout, like that was like to toss it back. But the Jamaican stouts seem to be geared to the climate a bit, and I found after golf that I could toss those back, and it was very quenching.
That's just because your body's like, I like stout. I'm in Jamaica. This is Jamaican stout. I gotta try it.
I found it pretty good, I have to tell you.
Yeah, no. I've had a couple of Jamaican beers. Everyone has Red Stripe, which is their biggest export. But Dragon is great, and there's a couple others I've had as well that I've enjoyed. I did not know that there were any golf courses in Jamaica. I never really thought about it, but because I've never been. But yeah, stouts are one of those flavors, one of those styles that's very accessible worldwide. It seems like everybody makes a stout.
Yeah, I guess that's right. And in different ways. I mean, it's one thing that attracts me to the beer style is that they're almost exclusively top fermented.
Yes,
and I'm an ale drinker. I mean, lagers are great, and you give me a really beautiful, fresh, what was that Czech beer, the Pilsner Urquell?
Czech Pilsner, yeah, Pilsner Urquell, yep.
and so, and I get it. I get that's a superb lager, but I'm an ale drinker, and so the stouts speak to me.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. Porters, stouts, barley wines. This is my favorite time of year here in October. It's Martzens, Fest beers, alt beers, things like that. I love the heavy malt forward profile. I love the top fermented ales. It's my go-to. If I could, I would drink Martzens all year long, along with my stouts and my barley wines. So, yeah, I get it. That's my thing too. Lagers are great when it's, 35 plus degrees out, but, I'm also the guy who sits on his patio when it's 30 degrees and drinks a barrel-aged imperial stout.
Right. Well, there's some good ones too. And we've had a number of breweries making it, like we're talking about the Courage stout, which was a Russian imperial stout.
Yep.
In terms of style, and in fact, it was the Russian imperial style is really what the Courage product was sort of bringing back into the market, and I think successfully. But they're being made all over the place. We have a bunch of really good ones here in Ontario, really good ones made all over the United States, and
yep.
People have taken. There's one in what's the name of that brewery in Colorado? Oscar Blues or something?
Oscar Blues. Yeah, they make fantastic beer in general.
Yeah, well, they had one called 1050.
Yep, 1050 is a great beer.
And yeah, well, I mean, absolutely it is. And now that's, way different from this.
Yeah, most definitely.
Looks the same.
Yeah, well, it's black. Yeah, of course it looks the same.
Yeah. But it's different. It's really a different experience.
Yep.
But again, just so beautifully put together. I think that's a superb product.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. Oscar Blues makes good stuff. Avery out in Colorado, they make some fantastic stouts. One of my favorites is Mephistopheles, which is their imperial stout.
Right.
So, it's great as well. There's so many breweries that make great stouts. Yeah. Heck, even like going to the Midwest, if you go to like St. Louis, like Schlafly, they make a great stout. They don't. I don't know that they actually have like an imperial stout, but they make a great stout. Schlafly stout is a fantastic, just everyday stout.
Yeah. Have you had the I think it's California Lagunitas?
Lagunitas, yep. So I've actually been to the Lagunitas Brewery. I've been there. I've been to Mission. I've been to Corona Brewing. I've been to Ballast Point.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah. I used to live in the States, so one of my favorite things to do was drive around and go to places. So I drove out to Colorado and I went to a bunch of breweries. I drove out to California and went to a bunch of breweries. I've been all over the place, and I'm from the Chicago area where there are a bunch of good breweries.
Oh, absolutely. Of course there are. Yeah. So anyway, we're not we're not going thirsty on this continent, are we?
No, we are not. It's pretty funny. I've lived in Canada for about 5 years, and it's cool to watch the evolution of the craft brew scene here in Canada, because when I moved here, it was about 10 years behind the United States in terms of styles and number of breweries. And it's just amazing the amount of breweries that have opened since I've moved here.
Oh, yes.
And they're making good beer, which is great for us, the consumers, and it's good for them. It's like, awesome. You guys are making all these different cool styles, and you're making all these different flavors of beer. And me as a consumer, I'm like, keep doing it. It's amazing. I love the fact that I moved here and the craft beer scene was like on this upward arc, and it's still on that upward arc. It's not like where it is in the States, where it's kind of plateaued in the States. Right. You've got oh, we've got all these breweries, and we've just kind of maintained this number of breweries. Here in Canada, it's still on the upward swing. It's like it seems like every week a new brewery is opening.
Well, I mean, the market, flattens, over a period of time, and of course, price is a big factor. And what's happened, in the U.S., it seems to me, is that there are some, sort of craft style breweries, and I'm thinking of Sierra Nevada, which have been able to maintain quality but keep their price down, and that just gives them huge market share. I mean, I go to down in Florida, I go to the public supermarket, and I can get, well, pre-pandemic, I could get Sierra Nevada for $1 a can,
right?
And what a bargain is that? I mean, how
right
now it's $1.25 now. I mean, everything, all prices are going up everywhere, of course, but
yeah,
still in all. But in the market is still effervescent, shall we say, here in Ontario.
yes, very much so.
And in Quebec, I just got back from Quebec and had a whole bunch of superb craft beers made in Baie-Comeau, Tadoussac, places like this, which, I mean, you can't even really buy outside of those communities, let alone buy them in Ontario and so on.
Right. Yeah, you have to know somebody in Quebec to send them to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And just making just superb products. I just learned yesterday that one of my favorite Ontario breweries, which is Stone City in Kingston, is just got acquired by someone who's going to change everything and change the name, and and I'm every now and again, a couple of times a year, I'll get Stone City to send me a couple of dozen or this, that, or the other thing, and so on. And now I'm all anxious, like, are they gonna maintain the taste profiles? What's gonna happen to my beer?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, that's a valid concern as a consumer. It's like there's a lot of good little breweries out there that are getting bought up by bigger breweries because they make good product. And then you have to wonder, is the product still going to be good after they're acquired?
Right. But I mean, here we're drinking one that survived really well.
Yep. All right, Gary, we have been talking for 42 minutes, which is not bad. I mean, typically I try to keep my episodes 30 to 45 minutes, so we're well within that. But this is the part of the show where I say, hey, this is the end of the show.
It's been a great pleasure.
I don't know if you're big on the socials or whatnot, but if people want to get a hold of you, how would they get a hold of you, Gary?
Oh, I'm easy to find. I think I'm the only lawyer practicing in Ontario with the last name of Hodder, Hodder. So all my particulars, if Hodder lawyer, the name of the firm is Hodder Wong LLP. Very easy to find, and my email address is there, and so I'm hardly a private person.
Excellent. Well, Gary, I would really like to say thank you for being on my show. I always enjoy having everyone's perspective on beers, and having a stout is one of my favorite beers to have. So it was excellent. Until next time, I'm Rob from the internet. Cheers.
Cheers, man.